Hi, this is Chris Converse, and in this episode, we'll create an expandable mobile menu using nothing more than HTML and CSS. So if you'd like to follow along with me, download the exercise files, and let's begin by opening index.html in a text editor. And when you have the HTML file open, you'll see we have a pretty simple layout here. Up in the heading area, we have a link to the style.css file, which we'll be opening in a few minutes. Down here in the body area, we have a header, a navigation area, and an article. Inside of the navigation, we have a series of anchor links. And these are the links that we're going to be showing and hiding with CSS. Now to preview this layout, you can open the index.html file in a browser. And the first thing that we'll need to do to create our mobile menu is add a little bit of HTML. So let's come over here to the HTML file. Inside of the navigation element, before the word topics, let's add a label tag. So less than sign, type in the word label, and the tag. I'm going to come in here and indent all of the anchor tags. And then get the cursor after the anchor tags before the ending nav, and let's end the label. Now inside of the label, let's come up here. Let's hit a return before the first anchor link, and let's add an input tag. So less than sign, type input. Type is a checkbox. And then let's end the tag. So we're basically using a form element here inside of a label so that the label will control the checkbox, allowing us to click on the topics word and enable the checkbox, and then we'll be showing all of the anchor links. Now to do that, we're going to need a container around the anchor links as well. So let's get our cursor before the first anchor link. Let's hit a return. Let's put in a beginning div tag. Let's get our cursor after the last anchor tag. Let's end that div tag. And then again, I'm going to indent all of these anchor links. So we have our main navigation element. We have our label element here with the word topics. We have an input checkbox and a div with all of the anchor links. So now if I save my HTML and go back to the browser, we'll now see that we have a checkbox showing after the word topics. And so with this in place, let's go back to the exercise files. Let's open style.css in our text editor. And let's scroll all the way down to the bottom after the nav space a colon first of type rule. And let's start by creating a rule that's going to target the label inside the nav element. So we'll type nav space label, put in our brackets. Let's split this open. First property is going to be display. We're going to set the display type to a block. Next line, we're going to set a background property. So let's set background. Now we're going to use shorthand style here. So the first property is color, but we're going to leave that blank. Second is the image. So we'll type URL, put in our parentheses. We're going to go into the images directory. Then we're going to type menu.svg. Outside of the parentheses, we're going to set the repeat. We're going to set no repeat for that value. And then for the X position, we're going to set 0. And then for the Y position, we're going to set this to 1 pixel. Next property is going to be background size. And we're going to set this to 20 pixels for the width. And then auto for the height. And then the last property here we're going to set is padding. That's going to be 0 on the top, 0 on the right, 10 pixels on the bottom, and 30 pixels on the left. With that in place, we can hit save, go back to the browser and hit reload. We'll now see the graphic showing up in the background, and all of the anchor links with their margin left now vertically align with the word topics. So now let's go back over to our CSS, and let's target the div that's inside of the label element. So we'll type nav space label space div, put in our brackets. First property is going to be margin. We're going to set 10 pixels on the top, 0 on the right, 0 on the bottom, and 0 on the left. Save your file. If you reload in the browser, you'll now see that the first link, called properties, is now spacing down 10 pixels. So now back in the CSS, let's come in here and set a display type of none. Hit save again, and now in the browser, all of those links that are inside of that div element are now not displaying. Now in order to show these links, we're going to use something called the adjacent sibling selector. We're basically going to turn on those links if the checkbox is in a checked state. So in the CSS, let's come in here and create a new rule. So type nav space label space input, then a colon. Let's add the pseudo class of checked, then a space. Then we're going to add a tilde, which is the adjacent sibling selector, and then type in div. So again, what this means is we're going to target this div element if the input field, which is at the same level or a sibling of this div, is in a checked state. So if this is the case, we're going to come in here and reset the display type to a block. So with that in place, you can hit save on your CSS, go back to the browser, hit reload, and if we come in here and check the checkbox, now we'll see all of the links will show up. If I uncheck the checkbox, the links will disappear. And since the word topics and everything in here is inside of that label element, we can click anywhere inside of here and activate the checkbox. And so with that working, the last thing we need to do is hide the input field. So back to the CSS, I'm going to put this above the label input checked. So nav space label space input. Put in our brackets, and we'll come in here and simply set the input field to display none. Save your work, go back to the browser. We no longer see the input field. And if we click anywhere on topics, this will open up the menu. If we click it again, it will close the menu. And so with a few lines of CSS, we were able to create an interactive, expandable mobile menu. Now, if you'd like to add some additional user experience touches to your menu, like animations or maybe sensitivity to a user screen size, I'd recommend taking a look at Chapter 1 of Advanced Techniques in Creating a Responsive Web Design, which is also available here in the library. And so with that, I'll conclude this episode, and as always, thanks for watching.